has been tough, especially for our students and teachers. We all have been witness to how they have been drastically affected by the sudden virtual shift. But despite all of that, we have seen several measures being undertaken by various sectors of society to remedy this concern and preparing schools for the opening of the academic year on October 4th. Let's find out how the academe has been adapting to these changes, as well as what lies ahead for the future of learning here in our country. To start off, let us all welcome First Vice President and Sales Head of PLDT Enterprise, Mr. Vic Tria.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of PLDT Enterprise, it is my pleasure to be joining you all this afternoon as we take a closer look at one of the most contended topics today, e-learning. Having kids myself and a teacher for a wife, I understand the worry that plagues both students and schools given this sudden shift. But working for a technology company such as PLDT has allowed me to take on a different lens. Our chairman and CEO MVP often says that technology is an equalizer of opportunities. And this belief has taken on a new iteration in light of the needs of the academic sector. Within the group, we've taken on the adage, no learner left behind, which serves as both a challenge to us and a promise to our customers. Inspired by this mantra, we quickly designed solutions that would enable us to accommodate such an extraordinary shift. Although the shift had initially posed many difficulties, I believe that it is forging a path towards a more sustainable model for education. With this, our immediate goal became to enable students to continue on with learning. We wanted to provide them with the means to study from virtually anywhere, regardless of what was happening. But this was just the beginning. Cognizant of our role in ensuring that no learners left behind, we at PLDT began forming strong alliances with both public and private sector institutions to make this vision a reality. In a way, we were lucky that the pandemic began at the brink of summer here in the Philippines. It afforded us time to research and experiment so that we could successfully implement systems that would best benefit our partners. Among key milestones for us was our partnership with the Department of Education. We first provided our students and teachers with free access to their learning management system, the DepEd Commons, which is utilized by over 8 million users today. Still, we recognized that we needed to add another dimension to this if we were truly after equitable education. That is why we likewise deployed our Smart School in a Bag, which provided institutions in far-flung areas with a tablet and connectivity capabilities, allowing them to access the platform despite the lack of tools. Likewise, our partners from Gabay Guro provided teachers with platforms and e-learning contents so that they be equipped with the training and knowledge to empower students from across the country. We've also partnered with two of the country's largest and most formidable educational organizations, the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines and the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities. We deployed a number of online applications designed for remote teaching, as well as connectivity, study plans, mobile and fiber, and curated services for e-learning, allowing schools from all over the country with the flexibility that would enable them to inject their teaching philosophies amidst the limitations imposed by the current setup. These key institutions have proven to be strategic partners in crafting our e-learning framework. Through rigorous collaboration, we have developed an expansive suite of e-learning solutions that are simple but relevant and flexible. Growing up, I was taught the three age-old R's of learning: reading, writing, and arithmetic. But I realized that even long before the pandemic, today's students are of a different kind, given all the technology and information at their disposal. Quoting Jeff Spencer of Microsoft, these three quintessential R's are joined by another, and perhaps the more pertinent and relevant R today: rethinking. Education has long been evolving, but it was the pandemic that allowed us to finally reframe our thinking and transform today's educational practices. The question is, how can we rethink education? The shift to online learning has definitely allowed today's educators with the means to transform their operations and cater to more flexible pedagogies. Children who will start school from now on will grow up to be workers and leaders in a digital first world, one that will demand new skills and new ways of thinking. And it is the technologies we deploy and implement today that will set the groundwork for this. PLDT has been key in the augmentation of e-learning programs with several of our services. First of which are basic connectivity. We have expanded our network by 40% over the last 6 months, a figure that usually takes more than a year or two to accomplish. Such improvement was done specifically to accommodate the need for bandwidth-heavy learning management systems. A large number of resources are being invested as well on 5G capabilities to further fortify the quality and availability of our network. We've also improved our offers so that schools can shoulder the data needs of their students. Our GigaStudy offering is fortified by our BizLoad platform, enabling students with the means to be provided with a steady monthly data allocation. Our enterprise-grade Beyond Fiber comes with minimum 90% of subscribed bandwidth at 90% reliability, providing both students and teachers with the means to stay online without worry. It can even be bundled with various collaboration tools such as Microsoft and Google education platforms. To date, we have deployed over 250,000 of these education collaboration licenses, allowing schools with the means to better connect with students. On top of this, all our offers can be bundled with enterprise-grade cybersecurity as online applications are hosted on the telco secured network of Vitro data centers. As you can see, we're just getting started. Our offers are beginning to become more sophisticated as the sector likewise begins to adopt new methods of learning. As we join the academic sector in its quest to rethink the ways we educate, we at PLDT will continue to work with both public and private sector organizations to ensure that no learner is left behind. After all, what inspires us is to see our children always in pursuit of knowledge. Thank you very much and a pleasant afternoon to all. Now, let's hear it from the leaders of the associations we're closely working with to revolutionize the country's e-learning experience. President of the Catholic Education Association of the Philippines, Father Elmer Dizon, and President of the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, Dr. Carol Enriquez.
The Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines has around 1,500 member schools. Its vision is to transform the world. How? Through the leadership of people educated in two principles: the principle of community and also the principle of service. This is being challenged by the present pandemic, and we need to adapt. We need to find different ways in order to accomplish our goals. One of them is technology. Since the beginning of April, we formed a task force in order to address our concerns about the modes of delivery. We have to grapple with our own situations. Everybody is experimenting, trying to find ways to best address continuity of education in the most realistic and practical ways.
Technology would be a great partner, and it would solve a lot of things for a lot of universities, especially since we have to go digital for the moment. Partnering with PLDT goes beyond technology. It has allowed us to give different options to our students in terms of various data plans that they need according to their needs and budgets. And it has allowed us to create guidelines for our stakeholders so that they're able to manage and make best use of whatever Wi-Fi connection or whatever data plans our students and our faculties would have.
Only human interaction facilitated by online technology. They can use email, other platforms to upload their own learning materials. Our teachers need to upgrade themselves with the available technology that the schools have adopted so that they are more technologically equipped in order to deliver instruction.
The new normal now entails doing everything digitally, from application to enrollment to payment, online libraries, and even guidance counseling. The reimagined business model of universities will be built on online and remote learning platforms and courses.
Is on this area of the expertise of PLDT that somehow CEP is quite confident that it will be properly assisted. Thank you, PLDT, for this opportunity to bring across our desire and commitment to continue our mission of educating the young.
To succeed and to thrive, both providers of technology-driven education must find solutions together.
Thank you, Mr. Tria, Father Elmer, and Dr. Carol. E-learning truly has a big learning curve, but the steps we need to undertake allow us to redefine the academic sector for the better. Now, to shed light on the future of e-learning here in the Philippines, our next guest speaker has been appointed Undersecretary of the Department of Education by President Duterte upon the recommendation of Secretary Briones. He has been tasked with supervising 3 major services and 4 major divisions. Let us all welcome Undersecretary for Administration of the Department of Education, Yusek Alain del Bustamante Pascua. Hello, Yusek Alain, and welcome. Sir, just a brief overview of what's going on in terms of the plans of the Department of Education when it comes to e-learning.
Hello, thank you for that. Our Secretary Leonor Mactolis Briones, always reminds us that education must continue even in times of crisis, whether it might be a calamity, disaster, emergency, quarantine, or even war. The COVID-19 public health crisis has pushed the Department of Education to make use of technology in making sure that education does continue and to deploy multiple learning delivery modalities, including online distance learning, in a very short period of time. Here, the DepEd Digital Rise program comes into play. The Digital Rise program forms part of what we call the Public Schools of the Future framework, which the administration strand, the Office of the Undersecretary for Administration has formulated, and under the leadership of Secretary Leonor Mactolis Briones, and in line with the Philippine Development Plan of 2017 to 2022, under the present administration of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, this Digital Rise program is one of the fundamental pillars of what we call the Public Schools of the Future framework. It is in support of the Sulong Edukalidad, the DepEd's initiative in response to the rapidly changing learning environment of present and future learners, which will introduce aggressive reforms to globalize the quality of basic education in the Philippines. While the Digital Rise program is a multi-framework or multifaceted framework, specific aspects of the program were activated as a response to the pandemic. We have started this long time ago, but there are several programs which we were pushed to start when the pandemic came out early this year. I will be discussing some of these specific programs today. One crucial mechanism in these challenging times is that the DepEd Commons. The DepEd Commons is an online platform to support the continuous delivery of basic education to Filipino learners. It is an online platform for public school teachers to support distance learning modalities, which can be accessed through the DepEd website precisely to continue the delivery of basic education to our children. We started with only about 19 users in March 14. This is the time when quarantine was imposed in Metro Manila and then the entire Luzon. By mid-July, or in the span of 4 months, we have reached more than 8.5 million users registered in DepEd Commons. Part of the success of the DepEd Commons is the zero rating given by the country's telecommunications company, like Globe and PLDT Smart and all other telecommunications company made access to DepEd Commons free for all of their subscribers. So they can enter the platform even without cell phone load or internet data credits. It is worth to know that these telecommunications companies, they may be competition to one another. They all help and collaborated with the Department of Education in delivering free access to the DepEd Commons. It is through this kind of partnerships that enable us to make leaps and bounds in response to the challenges brought about by the pandemic. Another project under the Digital Rise is what we call the Public Education Network, or we call it PEN. It is the ultimate connectivity project of the department that aims to be resilient, independently reliant, and cost-effective. It aims to connect all public schools to all DepEd offices, making data transfer possible even without an internet connection. DepEd is working with the DICT, or the Department of Education, Department of Communications and Information Technology, or DICT, in making this project a success. I will be discussing later other programs that we still have, but because of the time limit, I'd just like to add that the President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, has mentioned the PEN in his recent State of the Nation address and committed to seeing the project to completion before his term ends in 2022. So this is now where we are right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusek, for those insights and updates. I just want to ask, sir, do you envision that this e-learning and this new roadmap of the DepEd will really replace the face-to-face education? When we talk about the quality, is it reasonable to assume po that there might be delays in learning? Is that something that you have looked into? And of course, difficulty in rolling out this, services, especially during these difficult times?
The requirements of today's situation is to enable continuity of education without having face-to-face encounters. That is the challenge that we now have to address. And because of the seeming impossibility of having face-to-face encounters like the traditional classroom teaching, then we will have to resort to distance learning and to what we call blended learning, where the different modalities like online platforms, television and radio broadcasts, and even printed modules are combined or blended together so that we could deliver the education to our children, not inside the classroom, not in schools, but in their houses or in their homes.
Sir, do we have the skills needed for this? Because the teachers and the professors will need to significantly upskill. What are your plans for training them and allowing them to do the same type of execution but in a remote manner?
Prior to the pandemic, we have already started training our teachers in the use of technology. We have in fact adopted the direction of DepEd to use open educational resources. And in our effort to go towards open educational resources, or OER, we started also capacitating our teachers on the use of available technologies so that they could deliver their teaching in a much easier way. Para sa ganon ay mas madali yung pagtuturo nila sa loob ng classroom. So, nag-start na ito ng mga pagsasanay. Nag-start kami sa malalayong lugar, and we have mobilized our newly created unit, Educational Technology Unit, under the ICTS in DepEd, and they started training our teachers sa paggagamit ngayon ng tinatawag nating new and old technologies. And last month, we have reached out to more than 400,000 teachers. And we have capacitated them to use available technology now in delivering basic education to the children at home.
Sir, how long po is this roadmap going to be? You mentioned that you're already doing it now, you're starting to roll it out. Are you envisioning blended learning to be continuing with or without the pandemic? Or is this just, broadcasting on television or radio and teachers not doing face-to-face learning? Is this something that you envision is the future of academe here in the Philippines?
Itong TV at saka broadcast, TV and radio broadcast, when we started looking at this, it is only to answer for, as another platform to reach out to students. But when we started discussing and we started doing the TV and radio episodes, we realized that TV and radio broadcasting can be a permanent tool, in delivering education to our learners, wherever they are, whether they are in isolated places or in far-flung areas. Kaya sabi namin, itong TV at saka yung radio broadcasting can be a permanent fixture in Philippine public education. And we would be proposing that they become, or that the DepEd will really develop the TV and radio broadcast so that we can reach out to the students. Kahit na meron na yan face-to-face later on, meron na yan traditional classroom instruction, ang tingin namin yung TV at saka yung radio, while they might be old technologies, may have to be blended with new technologies para sa ganon, mas ma-facilitate yung pagdi-deliver natin ng education. Aside from TV and radio, of course, we have the DepEd Commons, an online platform, and we have other kinds of platforms that we would want to do. For example, under the PEN, the Public Education Network, we will be connecting all schools so that all schools can interact with one another. And the schools can also be connected directly to the offices in the regions, in the divisions, and even in the central office, so that we could push contents from these different areas to the schools, and then they can learn from one another. It's the blending of all these available platforms of old and new technologies, merging of old and new technologies, that we see what we call the Digital Rise program coming into fruition, coming into realization, and we think that we can deliver education much better by using all these tools and available technologies.
Okay, thank you, Yusek. So from a temporary solution, dapat it's actually become something more sustainable in the future. Now at this point, I'd just like to reintroduce to our stream here Mr. Victory of PLDT to have a chat with the both of us. Hi, Sir Vic. I just wanted to jump in on what Yusek has been saying, that you've been able to provide solutions, for example, making data free for learning. Is this something that PLDT is really looking at? Is this your first venture into the education sector? Have you actually already been assisting the academic sector, or is this something completely new and that you're now starting to focus on?
Thank you, Danny. The PLDT Group fully supports e-learning, inspired by our chairman and CEO with MVP's vision of no learner left behind. With end-to-end solutions, we were able to make e-learning a reality together with our customers and partners. Beyond just connectivity, we have designed different solutions, learning management systems. DepEd Commons, actually, we're supporting that with DepEd, collaboration tools, and various smart gig or wireless study plans and PLDT Beyond Fiber offers, which come bundled with e-learning packages. We have to be agile enough to curate plans and services that could be implemented across varied setups and capabilities. We have Gabay Guru contents, we have School in a Bag for remote areas, and Signal TV in support of DepEd also to reach wider area for broadcast learning. Along with this, we started expanding and fortifying the quality and availability of PLDT and Smart Network, which today has reached an unprecedented 40% expansion in the last 6 months. And a large number of resources are also being invested in our 5G capabilities to further support e-learning and its future in our country.
Thank you, Sir Vic. Yusek, can you comment, sir, because we have the technology and PLDT and other networks have actually partnered with you to bring this to their homes. But there's still the question of a lot of parents are working from home right now, and they're sharing the space with the student. How do you address, sir, those other issues, especially when it comes to you need to share technology in the home? Is this a conducive environment po for learning? And is there a way to circumvent the problems?
Of course, when you say, are the homes or are our houses conducive to learning? Well, we have not planned for this pandemic to push us in the four corners of our homes to be our own classrooms. No,
Right.
We have been forced to stay put and learn either in front of a TV or listening to radio or making online connections so that we could access the DepEd Commons and other available platforms. Of course, the ideal environment is always the school, where we go to the school and then we study there in front of our teachers and with our classmates. But given this pandemic, we are now forced to innovate and to adapt to whatever measure we need to do in order that education must continue. So we designed different ways of delivering education. We have the DepEd Commons there. We now have to use TV episodes, and then we now have to broadcast also audio episodes for the radios. And we also ask our teachers to coordinate with our parents and to distribute printed materials and textbooks, and also get in touch with the learners using the cellular phones or other means of communication that have not been used before when we were always teaching education in the four corners of our classroom. So we have to adapt to this kind of situation, and we must ensure that the kind of education that we should be giving them in the classroom will be the same kind of education that we will be providing them at the comfort of their homes or at the discomfort of their homes. So, medyo kanyan, kailangan natin ayusin talaga para sa ganun ay tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Otherwise, kung hindi natin makikita yung mga challenges na yan, tsaka yung mga pagkakaiba na yan, eh mahihirapan din tayong magpatuloy o magbigay ng edukasyon sa ating mga kabataan o sa ating mga estudyante. Total, they are already inside their homes, they are enjoying lots of time inside their houses, then let's take advantage of that opportunity na hindi naman sila lumalabas at hindi sila pinapayagan lumabas ng bahay para sa ganon ay mas maibigay natin at mas magkaroon ng kahulugan yung pag-stay nila sa bahay. And the best thing to do there is to let them study. Give all the opportunities, give all the access to available platforms para sa ganon ay magtuloy-tuloy pa rin yung pag-aaral nila. No? Yan yung ginagawa natin sa ngayon. But of course, the situation is not ideal.
Yes, sir. But as you mentioned, there's actually a silver lining to that. This is the time to look at alternative ways of learning also that are outside of the classroom. There's a lot to be learned also, this, apart from textbooks and just all of these things that we learn inside the classroom. So this is the perfect opportunity to do so together with, of course, technologies that help us and also accessibility to these technologies, especially for the poorest of the poor and the students that need the education. Sir Vic, just jumping off on Yusek Alain's point, none of us anticipated this would happen. None of us wanted to all have, education from home, etc. But given all of these things, how does this shape the future? How does e-learning now shape the future of the academe?
Well, I think this is history in the making. I know that the current setup has its challenges, but what we have in place is changing the landscape of education. In a study conducted by Research Institute of America, for example, they found that e-learning increases retention rates by up to 25 to 60% as compared to face-to-face learning, which is said to only have a retention rate of 8 to 10%. That essentially means that students can learn up to 5 times more in the e-learning setup. Even post-COVID, or after COVID, e-learning could be the future of education. And we are excited to see how this setup will allow us to take local education to the next level. But this is not to say that we undermine or disregard the struggles that this transition poses. No, we recognize the challenges of making this shift. And we at PLDT are committed to enabling e-learning to become a reality for every single student. We are with you in this transition, and we are committed to helping you make the most of it so that we can all come out stronger and more capable.
Thank you so much for those words. So that was, of course, Yusek Alain and Mr. Victoria. We appreciate them taking the time to be with us this afternoon.